torso is probably gonna go on to another home because Omar has his own doll torso picked out where the head is going to be on. So hopefully
Yeah.
Can we
the
pass that
knob.
around to
Yes,
see
you
what
by all
happens?
means, and pass it all around if you want.
That's
And I
You
wish
don't
they
want to
had,
find
I
it.
don't wanna
You're
find-
trying
I
to-
wish they
you're trying
had
to
done
take it
like
I
the
don't
older
like
ones,
that. Nope.
because they didn't have those teeth. That
This
Just the
filled in.
knob.
Yeah,
This
it's
one
just
here.
the bottom part.
I mean,
on
I
the
can
old
see how,
ones.
yeah, it'll make it harder to take
This
the head off.
one was a sensational Winx doll, which is great, but she's got a sensational. She came with a little microphone base with a magnet in it, so the microphone stayed to her mouth. And I think there was an action also with the magnet. Once it connected, it actually made noise. However, the knob that I took her off of was actually shaped like a mini horse head. It was like, it was
Oh,
that
so it
big,
was like a piece
and the
that,
magnet extended to her lips so she could have that action, but getting that head off was a pain. It's off, it's gonna eventually have to go back on again, which I'm not looking forward to,
Now,
but she
would
is
you
almost
ever, would you ever cut or
I do.
you
I
would
cut
cut those?
Whenever I find a T, I cut the top part of the
Make
T
it easier to
off,
put it back together.
and then it's just the disc, like how they used to do it.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
all
and it's
like
secure,
You just
right?
leave-
Yeah.
you
when
just
I was
leave
little,
this part?
when I was little, I always
doesn't
used to
need all
change
the
their
rest of
heads
it.
around and
Yeah.
stuff. And it's almost like Mattel said, we don't want little girls doing that because if they change the heads, then they don't have to buy new dolls.
Yeah, that's
like,
not cool.
Yeah.
No,
So
when you
now,
do-
if you change the heads, you can risk breaking the body.
well,
And if
there
you
also
wanna
is, I would point out, the
try it,
little
pass-
brother
pass it
ripping heads
around.
off dolls.
Yeah.
That might
Yeah,
also
yeah.
been a
True.
positive,
And
not
here's
a-
some smaller
True.
ones sometimes if you can't get it with that. And don't be afraid to just hold it up against the vinyl. I mean, just if you look at the hook from the outside, with the hook facing that way, and just drag it down the hair. Sometimes they get it caught in her nose area, but it's okay, it's not gonna hurt.
You know, we were doing that. Of all things, this reminded me of a practical effect when I saw them making it from anyone ever seen American Werewolf in London?
Yes, yeah.
The effect of the hair growing out was actually foam. They pulled hair through, then
Oh, it
reversed.
goes backwards,
'Cause you
right.
couldn't push it out, but you could push it through.
Right, and
so
that's
they
what
took a
we're-
long,
what the next
hair and they would
step
just
is gonna
pull.
do.
They grabbed a bunch and pulled it through, then reversed the
With
footage
the-
to have the hair growing
With the
in.
doll with the plugged eyelashes,
yes.
do you have to worry about
You gotta wear
accidentally
that.
pulling those out?
Yeah, I mean, the method that I use, yeah, you might have an issue with it. I mean, see, already, because the eyelashes aren't rooted the same way the hair is, I mean, they are, but they're not very secure. I'll probably end up taking them out anyway. I might try to reroot them again. I might just say to heck with it and just not leave them
It's
out.
kind of like those little Dawn dolls from the 70s.
Yeah, they got
with
the little
rooted.
tuft.
And if you pull on them a little, sometimes a few hairs will come out a little further than
That's
others.
what's happening.
But then
Yeah,
you
she's-
can trim them,
Yeah,
and then they're
she's pretty much
evenly done.
jagged, so I'll take care of her though, so. The next step, basically, before getting the head off, after getting the head off rather, is you start your root. And usually, again, you see my kit. This kit is in an old hair bag. I put all my scissors, I put my special hair scissors and my, my tweezers and my crochet hooks and my dental floss, which is another neat little thing I'm gonna show you that I didn't know until Shavana showed me how to do it. All right, what hair do I want? Nope, that's my regime here. She's going to be a Winx regime eventually.
The wings heads are super cute.
Yeah, and they're little and they're easy and they're fun because it's done in less time than the gem heads take forever. Then again, I'm the kind of person I'll root for a couple hours every night. She'll push through and she'll go on until it's done. Where Maria will be asleep with a needle stuck through her cheek, she'll be just rooting away at anything. Again, my money's slipping. Sorry, excuse me. Okay. Don't ask. We only had one cash box. All right. Anyway, what's that?
Not really.
Yes, I have my own. Just, all right. So that's that. We're passing the head around. Yeah, I mean we can start pulling on her hair too. Doesn't matter, but. All right. So one neat thing about Dolly hair. This is where we get to talk about some hair. I know she's got a sample
I
of
do.
Saran to show you the difference of the feel. And all this hair is going to feel differently. Oh, that's okay. It's going to feel different after you wash it. It's going to be a lot softer. It's probably going to seem thinner because
look at that.
I know enough about how they do this. There's actually a machine that it's plastic. This stuff is just extruded plastic into a fine little filament. It's basically all it is. That's why you can boil it into place. Hot water will make it straight, make it curly. Because it's in essence, you're actually just doing like we would to fix a hand. You're actually melting it into the shape you want it to be in. It is what it is. But the strand will keep its structure, so it's not actually going to melt together. It's just going to hold its shape. And the difference, by all means, that's the nylon in its unwashed state coming out of the machine. They put a little bit of oil on it. which was why it's gonna seem so much different after you wash it. I guess a good example is the pizzazz that's in progress, because you can feel the pizzazz hair before washing and how soft and silky and awesome it is afterwards. I mean, it's like a night and day difference. She hasn't been washed yet, so she's still thicker, a little bit stiffer. And again, yeah, oh yeah. So, I mean, just a good example.
yeah, it's
And of
like
course,
really
Saran's
thick.
a different texture altogether. When I did the integrity panel earlier, I'm not as familiar with Saran hair, so I don't like to say I
It's
don't
not
like
as-
it as much, but it isn't as easy to work with.
I don't think I like it as much.
It's supposed to be
Nylon's
more like
very-
human hair, is
yeah.
what it's for. It's thinner, it's very
It's-
fine.
Yeah, the fibers are much thinner, but nylon is much silkier and it's much more durable.
Yeah.
However, that's considered more realistic, and it's the difference that you have is where it lays in the plug. Like on nylon, it comes more straight out of the plug.
Yes.
Where that lays a little bit more like human hair.
Exactly. This
But
stuff-
then you get flyaways and all the other things.
Which is why
So
she's
there's-
all, like that, because it's pretty
Yeah.
much straight out. Of
Uh-huh.
course, when I go to styler and cut her and stuff, it'll lay
Yeah.
down where it's supposed to. And it doesn't matter, because she's gonna be in a ponytail, she's gonna be astral, so she's gonna be fine. All right, that leaves us with starting the actual root. Basically, I like the fact that they extrude the hair from a machine in little tufts, because a lot of times your hank of hair will stay in that little shape pattern, I guess, as you get like maybe, I wanna guess it's like 14 to 20 strands each little piece. So a lot of times, making your plug is the easiest and most fun part for me, because I'll tend to make my plugs, a whole pile of them, and then go back and I'll root all the plugs in, and I'll make more, and I'll go back and root them. And if you can see it, the hair is almost separated. It's actually in its own separations.
Like noodles.
Exactly. And what I do is I use the natural separations because it takes so much less time. There's one of their natural separations. However, 9 times out of 10, the doll you're picking, you want it to have nice thick hair, you want a lot of hair to work with. So I will, depending upon the size of the doll, I'll double up on these, triple up on them. If it's a little head, like I rooted a Glamour Gal head, and it only needed just one small hank of the hair. That one, pardon the saliva, I use a lot of saliva. But,
So
I do, every
Yeah.
plug, that's why these are all stiff and
So
together.
Those all come, so you can pull them apart like those little.
You can, definitely. These are actually 2 of the natural separations because I felt that was thick enough for a Winx head, because that's what this hair is going to. Gem, on the other hand, my very first root was that astral you see in the display room, the cartoon astral, and I made her hair way too thick. I didn't know what I was doing. I was crazy. I
That's
actually
what I
counted
did.
out every strand of hair in her head into plugs because I wanted to be precise. I took a stock Gem doll and I counted how much was in their head in each plug. I counted every single one. She got done and she was like, phew! So I actually spent more time yanking hair than I did actually putting hair in her because I was silly and I couldn't get her ponytail to lay right because it was so thick. So that's one thing to be careful of. Basically, I run a tester sometimes if I'm not sure. If it doesn't feel like it's tight enough, I'll throw another piece of it in. So I do know that the Winx head here is good with a double. So we do 2 natural separations. I put them together. And saliva is a beautiful thing. It sounds gross, I know, but the hair always gets washed. There's always going to be a little bit of
you need it to thread the needle.
Exactly. Well, we don't have to thread the needle with this. There's
Are you
another
doing
little
the
secret.
rooting?
Nope.
Thread?
Nope, I actually use floss, but I use it to pull it through.
Oh, I
And
have.
it's very, very, it's a lot easier. So
Could I
normally,
add my 2 cents to
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
just
go
said
ahead.
about saliva?
Mhm,
I mean, obviously it needs to be wet. I use just a little cup of water on the side
do,
and dip
but it's-
it, and I
the only
just
thing.
another technique.
Right, exactly, and the one thing, laziness is something to do with the saliva, but also human saliva acts as a stiffener.
Really?
Because once I wet this and I toss it aside, in about 5 minutes, it's gonna be like that. It's still gonna be together, it's still gonna be reasonably stiff. So if I don't get all the plugs that I've made in the head, I can toss them in my kit and know the next time I open it back up again, they're still all together and not all jumbled and all hairy and funky. So, we're gonna pretend like I did my pile, yay, woo. So basically, to root, there you are, little ones, and I hid them. Okay, again, your needle selection. I'm probably gonna run way over, I'm running my mouth here. depending upon the doll. Darning needles and these needles, which are a version of a darning needle, they're just a little bit shorter, are perfect for gem heads. They're thick enough to go through the plug hole, the vinyl will stretch, but it also will retract over the hair, which is what you want. What I didn't do with Astral was I put way too much hair in the head, so again, it just was strange. But these will be a guide, basically. If your plug is a little bit thicker than your needle, it's going to be fine. That's kind of how I gauge it. Now, of course, with a smaller doll, I'll go with a little bit smaller needle. So the winks, you don't have to go as far to get out of the neck because you go down through the head. These are perfect. Barbie, perfect. And again, Gem, because she's a little taller in the head region. That's about perfect, but if you're new to it, I'd recommend a longer needle. It just gives you more to grasp, to pull out. So I'll do one, and you guys are welcome to ask questions, but we'll do the floss thing now. I have one already done, but I want to show you. Dental floss is great, and Shavana showed me this trick, because when you put the hair through the actual eye of the needle to pull it through, it's plastic. There's a chance the metal coming through the scalp is going to kink it. You're going to get that little boop at the end, and if you don't get the knot in the right spot, sometimes it'll come through the head. You can see that little kink right there. So I use floss just because it's a lot gentler. The wax of the floss actually helps keep the hair together. Sometimes it works against you, but let's hope that doesn't work like that today. Just you half it into a loop. And let's start. I always start at the back, work my way forward. Some heads are stiffer than others. Omar had a star doll I rooted, and her head is similar to the Integrity heads, and it's very, very, very hard vinyl. More body part intervention instead of running to the hot water every time, because every few plugs I had to reheat it. I actually just kind of put it under my person. And the heat from your body actually will heat it up enough to be squishy enough just to get that needle through. These guys are easy because they're always squishy. All right, basically through the hole and then out the neck. And then, again, easier, it's waxed, thread the needle, no problem. You pop the floss through, and then you put the hair through the floss, and then pull it through. And it's actually easier on the hair. And once you've done it a few times, there's a rhythm. That's why I like to make all my hair ahead of time. See, now the wax is working against me. And then you pull it out. Obviously, if you're doing a long-haired doll, Regine's going to have nice, long, curly hair, so I'm using a full plug. If I were doing a short-haired doll, like the bangs on this, I cut one length of this in half to use because I don't like waste. I'm a very strange person that way. I like to recycle, and I paid that much money for the hair. I'm going to use as much of it as I can. So when I can conserve it, I will. So I'll cut it in half. But for her right now, the length of her hair is going to be one whole length. So again, a little more saliva to help, and just make a knot. I make my knot. I take it up as close to the, I'd be neater, I'd be doing it probably a little slower, but I take it up to, up as close as I can. Granted, if she's gonna have really long hair, it's not quite as imperative to get it real close. If you're doing a short-haired doll like I do, I like to put myself through pain and agony and leave as little hair as possible to try to make a knot out of, but that's me. So basically, you make your knot. Some hair, again, kinks easier than others. Even in the nylon, there's always a difference in the texture of the hair. You know, it depends on how thick it is. Sometimes, like, I don't remember if it was the blue or the purple over here, I actually had to bite the knot. Again, more interaction with your stuff. If you take your two front teeth, crimp the knot, a lot of times it just makes it a little more secure. This is good stuff. This stuff will stay without a problem. Just make it nice and tight. And I mean, you can pass that around. I mean, you just see it, the knot's gonna stay right where it's at. Again, a little dampness always helps. I mean, even with your own hair, you know, you keep it in place. What do? You wet it. Same deal with that. If the knot's wet, pretty much, you can tighten it down nice and keep it so she won't come loose.